This is another podcast from Alpha Business Media. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a trip, metaphorically speaking. We're heading to Nepal, a place I'm sure many of you dream about visiting. Majestic Himalayas, ancient traditions. It's got it all. But we're not just sightseeing today. We're here to dive deep into some fascinating source material you've shared. It tells a story of transformation, how Nepal's tourism industry is, well, rapidly changing in 2025, really trying to meet the needs of a whole new kind of global traveler. So our mission: unpack who these travelers are and how Nepal is adapting. And it's a crucial adaptation, absolutely. The sources really emphasize this point. It's not just that overall tourist numbers are growing again, which they are, strong recovery past pre-pandemic levels, but the kind of tourists, that's undergoing a fundamental shift. We're sort of moving away from those perhaps larger tour groups towards individuals seeking something much more personalized, authentic, integrated into their lives. It's a qualitative change, requires some deep thinking from the industry.
Okay, let's unpack that straight away then. Who are these new global tourists turning up in Nepal in 2025? What are they actually looking for that's so different?
Right, and this is where it gets really interesting. The sources, they break it down into several key types, distinct profiles driving this change. First, and their numbers are really climbing, you've got the solo travelers. They prioritize independence, flexibility. Above all else, really, that standard rigid tour package just doesn't cut it for them. They want to build their own trip, feel safe doing it, and, importantly, have chances for genuine interaction with locals, other travelers. The sources suggest Nepal's hospitality is a huge asset here, but the industry needs to tailor things specifically, ensure safety for people exploring alone.
So less booking a slot, more crafting an experience. Makes total sense. And what about the big shift we're seeing everywhere in how people work?
Ah, yes. That brings us neatly to the digital nomads. This isn't really a niche anymore, is it? It's a significant, growing group. These are people working remotely, traveling for longer stretches, weeks, months sometimes, all while staying plugged into their jobs. So what they need, it's way beyond just a nice view from the hotel. Reliable, fast internet. That's non-negotiable. Absolutely essential. They need comfortable places to actually work, whether that's in their lodging or maybe dedicated co-working spots. They're basically trying to live somewhere, not just pass through. And the sources note Nepal's lower cost of living is a definite plus point. If, and it's a big if, the infrastructure supports them.
The work from the Himalayas dream, it's actually happening.
It is, potentially. And alongside that, there's this growing desire for more than just looking at things. This is what the sources call experiential and transformational tourism. People want to actively participate. They're looking for personal growth, real connection.
So things like
taking a cooking class, maybe volunteering on a local project, properly experiencing a festival, not just watching it, or, activities focused on developing themselves. Travel becomes a tool for learning, for self-discovery, not just escape. And closely linked to that search for meaning is the rise of wellness and slow tourism. In our high-stress world, a lot of travelers are specifically seeking places to, detox, relax, meditate, do yoga. They want calm environments, eco-friendly settings, places that help them recharge mentally and physically.
And the Himalayas seem tailor-made for that.
Exactly. The tranquility, the spiritual heritage. It's a unique offering. The sources show growing demand for wellness retreats, healing programs leveraging that. And finally, there's a thread running through many of these, but also a powerful motivator on its own: sustainable and responsible tourism. Travelers are just much more aware now. Their environmental footprint, the impact on local communities. They want proof their trip isn't harmful. Ideally, that it's actually positive.
So they're looking for eco-hotels, carbon-neutral options?
Yes. Things like certified eco-hotels, responsible tour operators, maybe carbon offsetting, and definitely programs that support local culture, local economies, community-based tourism, for instance. It's about making conscious choices.
Okay, so the picture is clearer. Travelers wanting independence, work flexibility, deep experiences, wellness, and responsibility. Definitely not the old model. So given all that, how is Nepal's tourism industry responding? What are the actual changes happening on the ground?
Right, that's the million-dollar question. Translating demand into reality.
Yeah.
The industry is starting to recognize these shifts, but the sources are clear. There are significant hurdles. Infrastructure comes up again and again. It's fundamental. Now, there have been big investments, upgrades at Tribhuvan International Airport in Kathmandu, TIA, and the new international airports Pokhara, PIA, and Gautam Buddha near Pairahawa, GBIA. But the sources point out, in 2025, TIA is still very much the main entry point, PIA and GBIA. They're still ramping up, haven't fully spread the load yet.
So the potential is there with the new airports, but not fully realized.
Precisely. They create the potential for new hubs, but they're not the whole solution. And the really critical bottleneck, especially for digital nomads and experiential travelers needing connectivity, it's the digital infrastructure. Reliable, fast internet, stable power, not just in Kathmandu, but across the main tourist areas. That needs a major upgrade.
The physical doors are wider, but the digital pipes need work. Got it.
You nailed it. Then, on the policy side, the government has announced a move towards a digital nomad visa. That's a really strategic step. Directly targets a potentially high-value group. However, the sources are quick to add a caveat. Its success totally depends on how quickly and simply it's implemented. And crucially, on developing that supporting infrastructure we just talked about, power, internet, maybe co-working spaces.
Right. The visa is only one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. Beyond that, we are seeing real energy in niche product development. Moving beyond just, say, the mass Everest base camp treks, there's a conscious effort now to create things for solo travelers. Itineraries focused on safety, flexibility, ways to connect with others, like homestay programs. Wellness centers are popping up, growing, leveraging Nepal's natural beauty, its spiritual side, yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, targeting that detox and rejuvenation market.
And the community aspect.
Yes, community-based tourism, or CBT programs like one mentioned called Community Connect 2025. These seem like a perfect fit. Tourists live with local families, get genuine cultural immersion, and the money goes directly into rural areas. It really hits that sweet spot, experiential, authentic, and responsible. Plus, adventure tourism is broadening out. Trekking's still key, of course. But there's a push for lesser-known trails and other activities, rafting, canyoning, mountain biking, paragliding, especially around Pokhara.
Okay, lots of new ideas bubbling up. But how do they let the right people know? Those traditional glossy brochures probably aren't hitting the mark for a digital nomad researching online, are they?
That's a really critical point the sources raise. Marketing adaptation. It's essential. The industry needs a major shift towards digital channels. That means being active on the social platforms where these travelers plan their trips, creating great visual content, telling stories about these new experiences beyond just the mountains, and really importantly, working with international bloggers, influencers, YouTubers, people who specialize in solo travel, digital nomad life, wellness, sustainable journeys.
So, targeted outreach.
Exactly. Local campaigns like Visit Pokhara Year 2025, they're good, but they need that targeted digital layer to reach the right international audience.
Okay, so demand is shifting. The industry is trying to respond with new products, adapting marketing. But let's talk money. Ultimately, where's the biggest potential revenue identified in the sources? Which of these new niches are expected to bring in the most income for Nepal?
Right. Where does premium pricing meet unique offerings? The sources point to a few key areas with the highest income potential. Luxury and high-end experiential tourism. That's definitely one. Wealthier travelers looking for unique, comfortable, exclusive experiences. They represent a high-yield segment. And we're not just talking five-star hotels in the city. Think VIP trekking with top service, private helicopter tours to remote spots, stays in unique boutique lodges, maybe luxury glamping, or bespoke cultural tours, food tours led by experts. They pay for access, comfort, personalization.
So taking Nepal's core strengths and adding a layer of exclusivity and quality.
Precisely. Then, another area with huge long-term potential is digital nomads and long-term stays. Okay, maybe their daily spend isn't luxury level, but over weeks or months, their total spending on rent, food, local services, occasional tours, it adds up, and it's potentially more stable income. Plus, it benefits areas beyond the main tourist hubs. If that visa and infrastructure piece falls into place, it could be a reliable, distributed income source.
A steady stream rather than just peak season bursts.
Exactly. Then you've got specialized adventure and wellness retreats. These cater to deep interests, specific passions, and they attract people willing to pay significantly for high-quality programs. Think high-end yoga retreats with famous teachers, maybe in stunning locations, or really challenging, exclusive expeditions climbing less common peaks, deep jungle treks requiring top guides and logistics, specialized photography tours, serious bird-watching trips, things like that. High cost, high value. And finally, something that's becoming increasingly important: sustainable tourism as a premium product. It's moving beyond just being nice to have. People are actually willing to pay more for it.
Really? Pay a premium for sustainability?
Yes. Travelers committed to responsible travel will pay extra for certified eco-lodges, for carbon offsetting, for experiences that guarantee direct benefits to local communities or conservation, especially in a place like Nepal with its fragile mountain environments. Positioning sustainability as a premium choice. It's smart environmentally and potentially very profitable. appeals to a conscious, often affluent market.
So the path to higher revenue looks like targeting those willing to pay for quality, specialization, authenticity, responsibility, and building the right products. But we keep coming back to challenges. Infrastructure, we know. What are the other big roadblocks Nepal needs to clear to really tap into these opportunities? The sources weren't all sunshine, were they?
No, definitely not. The vision is there, some steps are being taken, but the sources highlight several major hurdles still prominent in 2025. Infrastructure limitations remain probably the biggest drag. We talk digital. But poor roads, they make getting around slow, difficult, uncomfortable. Domestic flights help, but they can be expensive, sometimes unreliable, especially to the more remote areas where unique experiences might be. And consistent power supply is still an issue in many places. Without fixing these basics, scaling up high-quality tourism, especially for luxury or digital nomads, is really tough.
The foundations need strengthening.
Absolutely. Yeah. Then there's quality and standardization. As all these new things grow, CBT, wellness retreats, niche adventures ensuring consistently high standards is vital. Service levels, safety protocols, hygiene, staff training, proper certification. Meeting international expectations is key for reputation and attracting those premium segments. There's also that tricky balance between authenticity and commercialization. It's a delicate line.
How so?
Well, bringing tourists into local communities via CBT is great economically. But there's a risk, if not managed carefully, of turning genuine culture into a show. A performance for tourists. The goal has to be real cultural exchange that benefits everyone, not just packaging traditions. Maintaining that genuineness is crucial long-term. And finally, the industry is always vulnerable to external global factors. Things like the global economy, people's spending power for travel, currency swings. Geopolitical instability anywhere can have knock-on effects. The sources specifically mentioned Nepal being on the FATF gray list. That creates potential financial and reputational risks, which could impact tourism investment and confidence. So navigating these external shocks needs flexibility, resilience.
Okay, a very clear picture. Huge opportunities, but tied to overcoming some deep systemic challenges. It's not just about grooming up new tours, it's the hard work on the ground. So bringing it all together, what's the big takeaway from the sources on where Nepal's tourism is heading?
I think the clear conclusion is that it's at a critical turning point. A necessary transformation is underway. This shift towards more niche, personalized, high-quality, responsible tourism, solo travelers, digital nomads, wellness seekers, the sustainably minded. It's not just a nice idea. The sources frame it as essential for Nepal to stay competitive, to capture more value. And the analysis really points to the highest revenue potential in those segments, ready to pay a premium. Luxury, long-term stays, specialized interests, and certified sustainability.
And unlocking that potential relies entirely on tackling those hurdles we discussed. Infrastructure, quality control, managing authenticity, and building resilience to external shocks. Flexibility, innovation, they're not just buzzwords, they seem absolutely key. So what does this all mean for you listening? Maybe you're planning a trip, maybe you run a tourism business, maybe you're just curious about how destinations evolve. Nepal's story in 2025 really is a powerful example. An industry facing change head-on, trying to understand a new audience and reinvent itself for higher value.
Exactly. It really highlights how, in today's world, understanding your customers' changing needs and having the agility and the underlying infrastructure to meet them, while tackling those fundamental challenges, that's the recipe for unlocking new potential, real high-value opportunities.
And it definitely leaves you with something to think about, doesn't it? As more places try to move beyond mass tourism, attract these more discerning, digital, value-driven travelers, will Nepal's focused strategy on these specific niches become a successful blueprint for others? Or will those persistent infrastructure gaps and external vulnerabilities prove too big a hurdle to fully realize the vision, at least in the short term? Something to keep an eye on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.